Hey Ben, really glad to have you back on and share your update with everyone. So, as
Oh
everyone
yeah.
probably knows, Ben is the guy who was working as a middle school janitor and then started a high-paying career in technology sales, and has since gone through a couple companies and is currently working in another sales role at a smaller company. And I think, Ben, last time we talked, you had just started an internship with a company called Clovers, where SDRs or BDRs would be on track to make around 70,000 in that
Yeah.
company. Can we just go through your timeline since we last spoke to where you currently are? So if you want to backtrack to that point in time.
Yeah, sure. So when we first left off, I was at Clover's. They were doing like an HR kind of product. It was pretty interesting actually. I really enjoyed it. Got connected with the people there. Great culture. It was more of a smaller company. Turns out I don't think I wasn't being utilized as much as an intern as I could have. So ended up going a different route and ended up going to actually work for you for a little bit. For
Yeah,
like
you
a
did.
month or something like that. I filled in some time, got a little bit more experience, but then I went into Dun and Bradstreet. It's a rather large company. It's pretty much the exact opposite of Clover's. So I was working there for a little bit, and I was making I think 80K a year. So anywhere from like 2,500 to 5K a month, typically, or 6K a month. I think something around there. And so I chose to move. After that, I moved to a different city, and I was pretty much just working. And the job itself was not difficult once you develop the skill and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But there was a lot of products. Dun and Bradstreet is a huge data company, so there's 20 different products I had to track and try to figure out how to get opportunities with. So it was a
Hmm.
lot, and I wanted something a little bit more simple. And so I went looking for different closing opportunities because I felt like I may be able to shortcut the process of being a BDR and go straight into closing. And
Hmm.
so I went and I started closing for, I cut ties with Dun& Bradstreet, which was a better decision for me. And I started closing for a company that helped sell marketing tools for roofing companies, which was I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't like super passionate about that either, but it was cool because I got to learn the marketing side and things like that. I got to introduce new skills and got to talk with some really cool people as far as learning. You're selling to roofers. You got to deal with like these kind of like highbrow type of right pocket, stern people. And so being able to
Hmm.
develop that leadership helped a lot, and ended up standing out within that company and got an offer at another company that is basically trained salespeople as well, but just in a different industry. And so I'm
Hmm.
working for them now. It's basically a BDR, and
Gotcha. Okay,
I
so
love it.
BDR. So you're setting up meetings for closers.
Yep, yep. So I'm teeing them off for them to hit them out of the park, and I love it. I have a huge trajectory within this company. I can go on to, yeah, be a closer, but I could go on to be a sales team leader, or an integrator to some, with equity sharing and all kinds of stuff. So
Wow.
really, really great trajectory, and a lot of that is a testament to where I started, how I was able to really, really adapt to the information that you laid out, that the companies that gave me when I was onboarding laid out, and one of the, I mean, well, I won't go too far in, but that's where I'm at now. So
Wow. So would you say that your life changed for the better since you went from being a janitor to working in these technology companies and working in sales?
dramatically, 100%, yeah. My like, well, here's the thing, right? Is like, did my life get better? Sure, but the best thing for me is the trajectory that I'm on now and where I can see myself in the future. As it's a
Mhm.
great bright path for me, which is what I love. You know?
Yeah. So when you're working as a janitor, to just feel like you're like in this dead end job, it's like next year I'm gonna be doing the exact same thing. I'm not getting any skills or going anywhere.
Yeah, it was, well, for me, because I had tried so many things in the past, there was marketing, copywriting, all kinds of stuff. And I ended up as a
Mhm.
janitor. So for me, it was like I felt like I was grossly under potential of where I should be. And so
Yeah.
now, like, I have a valuable skill. I'm providing real value to companies. It feels way better for me, and the trajectory is still there.
And tell us a little bit more about that trajectory now, because you went through Clover's, Dun and Bradstreet, the roofing marketing company, and now you're at the company. So four different experiences in the span
Yeah.
of about a year. So that's I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's a lot of different experiences in different industries and lots of sales experience too. So how do you feel like you're utilizing that experience now? Where do you think it's going to take you?
Yeah, so definitely developing the skill of sales, one of the best skills in my opinion that you can learn. But
Hmm.
as a whole, like when I was closing for the roofing company, I was very good. I had great numbers, great KPIs. I was doing great, and I actually took a pay cut to go with the company that I'm with now. And so the reason for that is because one, it's just such a huge trajectory as far as like where my future can end up in the next 5 years, that the
Hmm.
marketing, the roofing companies could not offer. Roofing marketing, I just want to, but so as far as like the experience I've been able to take from every single um, company I've been with this past year has just been completely different and has just helped my growth for sure. But yeah, I mean, one of the most valuable things that I've learned throughout the whole process is just pipeline management. You know, that's it. If you can get that down, that's going to take you really far. So,
Wow. So how much do you feel like you've learned in the past year compared to previous years?
it's interesting. I'm actually at a point now within this year where like I'm actually starting to slow down a little bit. But
Mhm,
within the previous years, I mean, I was never really like looking to achieve the sales skill. So
mhm.
as far as like, I have a personal value that I always want to be learning things. When it comes to sales in general, I mean, I didn't know anything besides like how to win friends and influence people. I read that before. That's the only
Yeah,
thing. But from learning from your course and then going and working at three different, drastically different companies, I've
yeah.
invested in some other sales training since then, and I've just been progressively getting better. People look at growth almost as exponential, but
Mhm.
for me, it was almost like the opposite. Whereas, like, I got really, really, really good, and now it's starting to kind of taper off. It's kind of harder to have as much progress as I used to have, but we're still trucking along, trying to get as much experience as possible.
For sure. I remember I felt that when because I started my career as a sales development rep at 18, right? And that
Yeah,
trajectory for learning was like, I mean, it's straight up.
yeah,
And then I became an account executive, and it's like from there, it's like starting from scratch, because I don't know anything, straight up.
yeah.
But then after I was doing pretty well as an account executive, it's like I'm not learning much anymore. I kind of got this down. And I was like, I need to start my own business so I can keep learning.
Yeah, right. You just got to keep learning. That's what it feels like. It's like it's so fun to just keep progressing at the rate that you're progressing at. And then when it slows down, you're like, I mean, it's almost why I looked at getting into a different industry. It's just because I like not to say that I knew everything in the tech sales, but it was just like I want something to have that explosion of growth again.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, and you took a pay cut, which is pretty interesting. So you must really like the company that you're currently working with now, or at
I
least
do.
assumed you would like it when you decided to make the move.
No, 100%. It's got the most incredible culture I've ever been a part of. Like all of my coworkers are like friends I take bullets for. The
Hmm.
product we sell really helps people, and I'm just very passionate about it, which is really cool to say because I mean, if you can speak on something with passion, it's going to take you a lot farther than just trying to BS your way through something trying to make a sale. You know what I mean? And I
And
think
there's a
passion
lot
can
of
be
people that
fabricated too.
Gotcha. And there's a lot of people that would say, okay, maybe you don't go to college and you go through this course careers thing. You can get lucky and land your first position, but you're not going to be able to get other positions. You're not going to be able to get lucky again, and you're not going to be able to get promoted. What would you say to those people, since you have been through all these positions so quickly?
Yeah, so as far as that goes, one of the most important parts I think people may not realize yet is really, when you put all of this effort into practicing the skill of sales, you should put equally as effort into interviewing for the roles. Because if you can, I've been in interviews now where, like, because of all the practice we did in your course, and not to mention the sales skills that we learned to help us in the interview process, I can go into interviews with, like, if I've been in group interviews, right? It's not, I'm like so far above everybody else because I just know all the answers. I know what to ask them. It's a lot. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest keys. If you're worried about not being able to get a position, do interview prep as much as you possibly can, and you will just make it, you have to make it unreasonable for them to not hire you.
Yeah. I mean, what was your offer rate when you were interviewing? It was you had 100% offer rate with like because you only interviewed with two companies, you got two job offers, Clover's and Dun and Bradstreet, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so let's say you say, screw this company, I want to go into a tech sales SDR position. What do you think your offer rate would be? Let's say if you interview with 10 companies, how many offers do you think you could secure?
I'm going to be a little bit bodacious here and say about 100%, because that's, I have had 4 positions the past year, but I've interviewed for about 12 and I've gotten offers on every single one.
Every single interview you've been
Everyone.
on got an offer.
Yeah. People
And you
underestimate how good being good at interviewing is.
especially for sales. I mean, if you can
Yeah.
interview well, I mean, sales and interviewing are essentially the same thing.
Go
You're
hand in hand. Yeah.
closing the deal with yourself, you're closing the deal for a product. So
100%. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, for all the people listening to this, because we've actually had people complain that they're like, I have like a master's degrees, and I've interviewed with so many companies, they just won't make me an offer. I'm like, look, companies don't care about your degree. They don't care about your previous work experience. Like people say, I've had previous sales experience, so I'm still interviewing with companies and I'm not getting offers. They don't give a shit about your previous sales experience. They care if you're a really good interviewer, which means you're going to be really good at sales. So
100%.
for everyone watching this that's already in the course, listen to Ben. He's a college dropout who is working as a middle school janitor. Every company he's interviewed with, from startup to Dun and Bradstreet, Fortune 500, he's gotten an offer from. I believe we still have a video of you, Ben, in the course as an example for how to interview, since you did become so proficient at
I
interviewing.
We do. I actually checked that video out not too long ago, and I think it needs to be updated. I'm way better now.
Yeah, so even back then, it's like when you're just interviewing with companies, you were still extremely proficient, but it's a learned skill. I mean, were you always proficient with interviewing?
Not at all. And where I'm at in that video on your course was only like 2 weeks of practice.
Something like that. Yeah, you went from like 0 to 100 in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can get very proficient at the skill where, like, most people are at like a level 2 or 3. You can get to level 10 in just a couple of weeks and you're already outshining everybody else.
For
And so, and
sure.
all it is just researching companies and looking up videos on good questions to ask, what questions to be ready for, preparing your answers. It's not even that hard, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, interviewing, it's more than just for sales roles too. I mean, right now we're hiring like software developers, product managers. I mean, all these pretty high paying roles. And how well someone interviews is still a pretty decent reflection of how well they're going to do in the role. How well do they communicate? How curious are they? I mean, these things are important and the interview is a good signal for that. So if you're really good at showing all the right signals in the interview, then you're going to get offers left and right for all types of roles, not just sales roles. But for sales roles, it's particularly important that you interview well, since it is a direct reflection of how good you're going to be as an SDR.
Absolutely.
And Ben, would you have any advice for someone who's currently on the fence about enrolling in CourseCareers? So they're probably watching this to give you some context, thinking like, okay, I've been watching all these CourseCareers testimonies, people who landed jobs, but what is it actually like in the role? I mean, can you give us a quick day in the life? Like, what does a day in life of Ben look like now? Are you going to the office? What do you do every day?
Well, I'm totally remote, so this is my office here. And yeah, so when I was working at, so me personally, like, I really like the vocal and the verbal communication part of sales.
Mhm.
And so when I was working for Dun and Bradstreet, a lot of it was more of emails, cold outreach through like digital ways. And
Mhm.
not a lot of my time was spent towards like actually calling and talking to people. And so it was about 2 hours a day. So now in my current position, basically we have a whole bunch of leads that we have that we're able to reach out to. And I'll go through and like I'll leverage different areas within the tech stack to help me get, a better edge one day or not, which is a little bit more in depth. But really, realistically, like I have some people that book on my calendar that I can reach out to. I have some people that are just a list that I can reach out to, and I just call people and I just talk to them and see if we might be able to help them. And if we can, great, let's send you on. And if we can't, that's okay.
Mhm.
And then also just like, well, one of my favorite parts about the company I work with now is that we have constant learning and improvement within the team. And so every morning, once or twice a day, we'll hop on for 30 minutes and do some trainings and stuff like that. I don't remember where I heard it, but if you're using an axe every day, you might as well sharpen it in the morning. you know, so it's helped out a lot. But for me, I mean, I'm in a really great place now. I'm talking to people constantly. Obviously, if you're a closer, you're going to be talking to people a lot more than as an
Yeah.
SDR. But and that is in my future. But that's pretty much the day
Mhm.
of the life is just calling people and talking to them.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. I know some people are like deathly afraid. They're like, "Oh, sales, you're gonna have to make cold calls," which you are. But I mean, do you enjoy your job then?
Yeah, no, I actually love cold calls. So a lot of people do end up being on that spectrum of like, I'm okay with the emails and the text messages or whatever, or the LinkedIn messages, but I just don't want to call people. I was the other end of the spectrum. I loved calling people. I wanted to talk to people, but I didn't really want to like formulate an email. And so eventually I got really good at both. And for me, see, I to speak on like getting over your fear of cold calling people, I might not be the best person just because I never had that fear. But when it comes to
Mhm.
emails, like I never really feared emails. I just hated doing them. For me, what helped
Yeah.
me is just creating a huge like Word document of different syntaxes and templates that I can go to and organizing them in a way that's very easy to pull from and things like that, which
Mhm.
you wish you had day one, but it is something you have to build. And once you do build it, you're like, I got this figured out,
Yeah, I mean, once you start working the role, you develop processes for yourself to make yourself more efficient. And the really good thing about sales too, since it is like purely results oriented, if you're just really good at your job and deliver a lot of results, I mean, I just talked with one of our previous students who's at like 300% of their quota. And he's like the
Nice.
most relaxed he could ever, and 300% for the quarter too. It's like the most relaxed he could ever be. Cause it's like, oh yeah, I mean, I could probably just stop working for the rest of the week and no one's gonna say a thing, which
Yeah,
is actually true in sales. Uh,
100%.
so yeah, I mean, being quota carrying, being results oriented, it could be a really good thing because it is absolutely no stress after you've hit your quota. And you start making a lot of money after you go past your quota. So you're not limited by anything. So for everyone watching that, it's like, I don't want to cold call. I don't want to be on a results oriented payment plan. It's like, no, the results oriented could be a very positive thing. As an entrepreneur, I'm purely paid based on results, and it's been working out
Right.
extremely well for me. So
100%.
sales is probably as close to entrepreneurship as you can get. Would you say
Oh
that,
yeah,
Ben?
I would agree. 100%. And
Mhm.
for me, like from what I've been able to see, sales is probably the best way to get into entrepreneurship just because it has such a clear cut path to leadership and how to lead and build a team and build a product and things like that. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, it is one of the most valuable skills you could have, in my opinion, in life, but in business as well.
For sure. I definitely would not be in my position today. CourseCareers would have never even gotten started if I didn't have sales skills. Everything
100%.
about CourseCareers started with my sales skills, and
Wasn't
I've been
just
able
an
to leverage
idea.
those to get to where I am now. So,
Cool to
yeah,
think about though, for sure. And
yeah,
I'll be there one day. I'll be running my own company doing something and I'll be using my sales skills to get there. But for now, I'm
for
just
sure.
honing the craft.
Yeah. And I know for everyone wondering too about how to get really proficient in interviewing, in Course Careers, we go over example after example of what makes you successful at interviewing, the exact questions companies will likely ask you, what they're looking for, how to answer them, how to practice. I mean, there's no stone that we don't go over in course careers. Like there's absolutely no reason you can't go from a level 1 to a level 10 interviewer just by going through course careers. Is that what you would say too, Ben?
100%. And another thing you have to realize is that there's just so many people that aren't prepared for interviews. So this is kind of a funny story. When I got the position for the job I'm in now, I interviewed with a group, and
Mhm.
so so two stories. One of the last questions that was really interesting is, if you got hired, who else in this group would would you bring with you? And so out of 10 people, nobody got chose twice except for me, who got chose 3 times. So, and that's just a testament to, like, not only the interviewer is going to be impressed by how well you can interview, yourself and your peers are also going to notice a difference within your interviewing process. But
Mhm.
I had to cut that interview short because I had to hop to a closing call with the roofing company. And so I messaged the hiring manager and I said, "Hey, I'm so sorry I had to cut out. I still have a lot of questions for you. Would we be able to hop on, stuff like that?" Because I only got to ask like 2 questions afterwards.
Mhm.
And it was interesting because I had like 10 questions ready to go to fire at the hip to this guy. And he said that after I left, they cut out like 2 minutes afterwards. Nobody else had
Really?
any other questions for him. And I was like, I
That's yeah.
I didn't get any of my questions answered. So be
Yeah.
curious about the company that you're with. Like, really do come in with a lot of questions, and people get to talk about what they want, which is where they work, which has to do with themselves, and how to win friends and influence people. That's the greatest thing for people to talk about. So always have questions.
For sure. Right now, we're interviewing senior software architects, and if they don't ask me good, interesting questions about or curious questions about course careers, I'm not going to move them forward in the interview process. That just tells me they don't care that much. They don't care about our industry, about our product, about our customers. So it's like they're probably not going to care that much when they're working here either. So
Yeah.
in companies, definitely hiring managers, they notice that you have to bring in some really good, detailed questions that show you're really interested, really curious, and you did your homework. And if you do that, then like Ben said, like you're going to stand out like a sore thumb. Because even if a company, let's say they get 500 job applicants, right, for a fully remote position, they might choose to interview, say, 20 people. And that's mostly based on how well you set up your like LinkedIn profile, resume, and do interview outreach. Like you can pretty much guarantee to get an interview with any company you want. It's what we teach in course careers. It's pretty much guaranteed. Any company you want to interview with, you can get an interview with them. And then when you're in the interview, like you could pretty well be certain if it's an entry level position, 95% of those people are going to bomb the interview. They don't have any good questions. They don't know how to do the job. So it's like if you actually do some prep work, you're going to be 10x better than the second best person for the role, which is why Ben, as a college dropout who was working as a college janitor or as a middle school janitor, was able to secure job offers 100% of the time with 12 different tech companies, including Dun and Bradstreet and tech startups. And I mean, all different types of companies.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it is a true testament to just how powerful being good at interviews is, and being able to merge that so beautifully within the sales skill that you're learning is just, it 10x is what you're able to pull off inside of an interview. It's really cool.
For sure. And is there any single piece of advice that you'd like to give to someone who still hasn't enrolled in course careers, but they're thinking about it and they want to change their life for the better?
I would say, realistically, um, if you do invest into CourseCareers, and or even if you're on the fence, just you need to really look at it as in a skill that you are developing that nobody can take away from you. Like, I know that if I lost my job right now, I have the sales skills and the interviewing skills to go out and get a job tomorrow or within a week. And nobody can take that away from me. The only way they can take it away from me is if they like cut my jaw off. And even then I'll be here with my body language. So just think of it as an investment into something that you'll never lose. As long as you come in and you actually learn the skill, you're not going to lose.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no more security than knowing that it doesn't matter what happens in my current job. I could immediately get another job, probably a better job, within a week.
Yeah, that's the true level of freedom there, and job security is just knowing that I don't need to rely on the company to succeed because I can already succeed myself.
Exactly. Well, thanks for sharing the update, Ben. This has been extremely helpful, and I know students love hearing these stories. And just thanks again for doing this.
100%. Loved it.